Hi, welcome to my podcast, Help Me Rhonda. I'm your host, Dr. Rhonda Karg. I'm a clinical psychologist, and each episode of this podcast, I share mental health related information with you in hopes that you'll learn some things that will give you insight into some of your own behavior, and you'll also learn new skills as part of the podcast. So, thanks for tuning in today. I've heard a lot of people recently saying that they're not doing things because they're afraid. So, whether it's someone that has social anxiety, or someone that's a highly sensitive person, or someone who has some other aspect of maybe social interactions that make it uncomfortable for them, maybe someone that's on the autism spectrum, those kinds of situations can be really challenging. And one of the skills that I teach people for social anxiety situations is to not be afraid of no. To not be afraid of no. What does that mean? Is that ask people for what you want and don't be afraid that they're going to say no. Because no is just part of life, and you miss a lot of opportunities if you're afraid of no. So let's say that you meet someone and you want to hang out with them and you're afraid of no. You may never ask them to hang out. You may never try to get their phone number and talk to them, even though they're really cool. Things like that, you're afraid that they're not going to like you. You're afraid they're going to reject you. You're afraid they're going to say no, or don't want to hang out with you. And as a result of that, that can keep you back, that fear of no. And one of the things that I encourage people to do, not just people that have social anxiety, but people of all walks of life, and myself included, is to not be afraid of no. Because if you do, you may miss out on a lot of opportunities in your life. So, if you're no longer afraid of no, how would your life be different? That's a question I want you to think about. How would your life be different if you weren't afraid of no? Those of us that are people pleasers or have a history of being a people pleaser, it's difficult for us to give ourselves permission to say no. And therefore, we think it's going to be difficult for other people to say no, so we won't ask for what we need sometimes, especially if we're engaging in like a fawning. Remember, fight, flight, freeze, collapse, fawn. Fawning is when you're super agreeable even though you don't want to be, and there's things that are really bothering you, but you don't want to make waves, you don't want to upset anyone, so you're just really quiet about things. And think about how dissatisfying your relationships might be with people that you're fawning with, because maybe they don't even know who you are because you're not allowing yourself to be yourself. And one of the big things that you'll hear me talk about in this podcast is really being yourself, being authentic. And if you want to wear a red flower in your hair, wear a red flower in your hair because that's what you want to do that day. And you don't worry about it. And it's the same thing that I've talked about before in terms of what other people think of you, and what you do is actually none of your business. There was a book written in the 70s by that name. You can find it on Amazon. What you think of me is none of my business. Let go of what other people are thinking of you. So that's the second skill that I want to focus on today, is what you think of me is none of my business. So it'll really help you to keep your nose in front of your face and be thinking about yourself. Like, what would I like to do? What do I need to do? What am I interested in today? And doing that. And you can invite people and they can come along and you can have a good time, or you could go and do it alone. Either way, you're going to have a good time. If you insist on having a good time, you will have a good time. Teaching yourself to find joy in everything is the last skill that I'm going to teach today, which is looking for things to find joy in no matter what the situation is. Okay, this is kind of a little bit Like a Buddhist principle in the sense that Buddhists don't believe that there's really good or bad. It's basically all experience is good because it's experience, right? And I try to live my life that way too because I feel like experience in general is good, no matter if it turned out the way that I thought it would or it doesn't. But using a Teflon mind and not getting attached to what the outcome is and being able to be flexible and being able to go with the flow are things that are just really important. And finding joy in everything. I mean, I remember one Christmas a few years ago. Oh, several years ago, I was at the vet's with my three bulldogs, and three bulldogs at the vet's is a very expensive trip, even though it was their wellness checks. They were just getting shots, I think. It was really expensive. And so my gratitude for that, my joy in that was that I had the money to pay for it and that I was able to get the care that they needed. That in this country, we have super skilled veterinarian care in this country compared to most other places. And so being really grateful for that and finding joy in that. And as I was checking out, a guy runs in the door and his dog comes over to me and pees on my foot. And I look down and the guy looks at me and I said, "Did your dog just pee on my foot? Like sit on my foot and pee on it?" I was stunned. And the guy says, "Yeah, she did. She does it all the time." No apology, no nothing. These were my favorite sneakers. I was getting ready to leave on a trip. I was going to wear them. And now they're soaked in another dog's urine. So, anyway, I'm standing there in my moment of bliss about how great things are and the joy I found. And I thought, okay, find joy in this situation. Find joy in this situation. I'm grateful that's not my dog and that's not my boyfriend. Okay. Find joy in everything, even if it's not what you want. Find joy in people saying no. Find joy in getting lost. Find joy in your plans not being what you thought they were going to be. Why? Because it's an adventure, it's experience, and it's good, whether it's what you wanted or what you didn't want. It would be a good experience for one reason or another. So try to find joy in it. No matter how frustrating it is, it's kind of a fun game. Okay, thanks so much for tuning in today. I really appreciate your support. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day.